Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're covering the return of the Women's March, an event first held at this time last year. You might remember it for popularizing those pink pussy hats. Gotta love them. And it was also known for its vague, let's help the women's message, a theme which they never really hammered out in any sort of cohesive statement or mission, just lots of vagueness. No, the supposed Women's March is in reality just a left-wing anti-Trump march, masquerading as a movement for the empowerment of women, because you really can't say no to that, can you? You may remember from last year the slew of celebrity guests they had, like Michael Moore, Ashley Judd, and, of course, old and washed-up singer Madonna, who had this interesting quote.
Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. We cannot fall into despair.
Yeah, bomb in the White House. Real progressive of you. Look out, Washington. A washed-up has-been singer doesn't like the president, and now she wants to go ahead and blow up an entire wing of our government. Some real rational thinkers we got here at the Women's March. Well done, Madonna. And now flash forward to the present. It's January 2018, and, well, this year's Women's March has proven to be just as pointless and ridden with celebrity hypocrisy as last year. Let's take a look at a news clip from NBC News and see what they had to say about it.
Across the country, huge crowds, hundreds of thousands packing in, calling for change. From Philadelphia to San Francisco, Dallas to Toronto, almost 200,000 people in New York alone.
I'm really curious what they want to change. Besides the obvious, obviously they don't want Trump as president, but besides that, I can't really think of any other women's issues they could be fighting for. Women have all the rights. Their standing is equal to men everywhere. In fact, they're often championed over men whenever possible. With that said, I hope today we at least get to one legitimate point. It's the second Women's March after all. Let's try and get one good point out of it.
This year's march falling on the one-year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration. The president tweeting about his success, celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place.
Based. And this reporter lady skips over the best part of Trump's tweet. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years. That means more women are working and able to get jobs than they have for a long time. Certainly more than there were under Obama or Bush. But maybe these feminist progressive women don't really want to work. Perhaps it's welfare, handouts, and special treatment. Maybe that's what they're after.
Yeah, just marching for his future, really.
Some protesting the president's policies.
Let's see what these signs have to say first. This first one says, to the wrong that need resistance, to the right that need assistance, to the future in the distance, give yourself. Well, that sounds all nice and cutesy and very poetic, but it doesn't really have any substance to it, does it? It's just these meaningless platitudes, feel-good crap, hippy-dippy bullshit. And the sign next to it says about the same thing, so it's all nonsense here. The only thing of substance I could see on this frame is the quote on the bottom, which is what the women are chanting, I believe. They're saying, no Trump, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. Well, the no Trump part is clear. We get that. You hate Trump, and you won't stop talking about it. That's what this whole Women's March thing is really about. They frame the president up as this racist and sexist. So having a Women's March makes sense to counter the sexism part at least. And then they throw in a bunch of minorities, of course, to combat his supposed racism. These claims are all bunk, of course. But in their little fantasy worlds, Trump hates women. So this women's rally should really show him up, right? But this, of course, ignores all the women who support Trump and all of his family and friends who speak very highly of him. And they're the ones who should really know, right? Particularly, I like to mention his stunning and successful daughter, Ivanka. Nice. She's not only proud of her father and speaks highly of his work and his treatment of women, Ivanka's also one of Donald's trusted advisors. But that's not the only female that Trump's put into power in his administration. His list of female appointees is long, including Nikki Haley, ambassador to the United Nations, who's not only a woman but also a child of Indian American Sikh immigrants, like Bunty King, except for not Canadian, thank God. And then there's also Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation, Christian Nielsen, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and then there's Dr. Heather Wilson, Secretary of the Air Force, and of course, Sarah Sanders, the White House Press Secretary, who's been killing it in her press conferences lately. Love that chick. And let's not forget the sharp and well-spoken Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. The list goes on, but somehow, supposedly, Trump hates women. Does this make any sense to you guys? Because I don't see it. I see Trump as a champion for women. I mean, this is why many sources like TheHill.com, they've dubbed Trump's first year in office as the year of the woman. But it appears the Women's March crowd happily ignore all of this. Why? Because they want more immigrants, I guess? Which they never really say a good reason for wanting, besides diversity is our strength and other nonsense. Yet, without any reason or good justification, the left keeps pushing for more immigrants. Which, let's be real, we all know the Democrats want more immigrants because they're going to vote for Democrats when they come in. But they try to frame it up as, oh, we should let people in and help everybody and be all peaceful and charitable. I'm not buying it.
Others joining the growing Me Too movement and Time's Up campaign as more women come forward, breaking their silence on sexual harassment and assault. In LA, celebrities turning out in force. Natalie Portman opening up about her own experience at just 13 years old.
This should be good. Natalie recently got caught making up her own abuse in order to get in on this Me Too bullshit. Here's a clip from the Golden Globes red carpet.
Like about when it first came out, sexual harassment, you're like, no, it's never happened to me. And then you thought about it and you're like, yeah. It's happened like over 100 times. And I kind of had that same reaction too. So is that all going to change? That's the time's up for me too.
Right, that I think our definitions are different and we've drawn a line in the sand that says this is not acceptable anymore, and things that we lived with and took for granted as the way the world was, that's changed.
So now that the rules have changed, Natalie was retroactively abused in the past. These Me Too girls are literally rewriting history in order to score victim points in the present. You can't make this shit up. Well, actually, I guess in a way, they are making this shit up. But in my opinion, if you were abused in the past, you would fucking know it. It's not something you forget about or you didn't even know that happened before. Real abuse is unforgettable. It's when someone grabs you inappropriately or says something really terrible or intimidating, or God forbid you were hurt or even raped. This is real abuse, not this fake abuse these two ditzes are talking about here on the red carpet. Oh, now that I look back with these new PC rules in force now, you know what? I actually was abused once, and I didn't even know it. That's bullshit. It doesn't work that way. If you were abused, you knew it at the time. And if not, then it wasn't really that big a deal. Now, was it? Now let's cut back to the Women's March and see what Natalie Portman had to say there.
From small comments about my body to more threatening, deliberate statements, serve to control my behavior through an environment of sexual terrorism.
Sexual terrorism, you say? Sounds like more nonsense you're spinning to try and make yourself a victim too. So, unless you were touched or abused, I say you give this shit up, Natalie. Sounds to me like some people commented on your appearance when you were 13. And this, of course, can be highly inappropriate, especially in certain situations given her young age. But let's also not forget what Natalie was acting in around this time. Her famous breakout movie was Leon the Professional. It was the movie that put her on the map. She was 11 at the time when she was cast and filmed for the year or so after, so it was right around the time or shortly after when she was 13. And if you really remember the movie like I do, one of the major plot points was the sexual tension between the young preteen Natalie and the older full-grown man Leon the Professional. So take that into consideration. But of course, I wouldn't say Natalie deserved sexual comments about her looks at such a young age, but she certainly didn't shy away from these ideas, considering her first movie was partly about the sexualization of a young girl. Now, I don't know if that necessarily changes things here, but I think this point is worth noting. Think about it. If Natalie was a normal girl going to school, it would be a much grosser offense to comment on her sexuality. Or even if she was acting in some normal G-rated stuff. That would be weirder, but no. She was in a movie that was about sexualizing a girl, like herself at the time. This point may be moot, but I think it's worth bringing up. I won't go too much further on it. I don't want to digress too much, so let's go ahead and move on and see what Scarlett Johansson said at the Women's March.
Taking aim at actor James Franco, who recently denied allegations of sexual misconduct. Franco wearing a Time's Up pin at the Golden Globes.
How could a person publicly stand by an organization that helps to provide support for victims of sexual assault while privately preying on people who have no power? I want my pin back, by the way.
And I want you to grow your long hair back, Scarlett, but as the Rolling Stones say, you can't always get what you want. And here's the thing, she's hinting at and talking about James Franco and his recent allegations, which he has completely denied. I suspect Franco has been caught up in these witch hunts against successful men lately, spawned by this whole Pound Me Too sensation. It's pretty much like what happened to Aziz Ansari last week. Every girl who's ever been on a date with a celebrity is coming out of the woodwork with wild stories and accusations against them, whether they want attention or revenge or just bored. There are lots of ulterior motives that could be at play here, and the media just puts these stories out there for views and clicks and dramatics. They don't check the sources or anything. Media or Hollywood actors looking to virtue signal like Scarlett, when it's convenient to them, they choose to believe these allegations to score points with the public or their bullshit women's rights movements. And this is particularly hypocritical for Scarlett Johansson, since in the past she stood up for Woody Allen, who's also had numerous sexual assault allegations made towards him. But it gets even worse than that. You see, while Scarlett's chastising James Franco for being accused by adult women, Scarlett herself was called out by a child molestation victim, Dylan Farrow, for working with Woody Allen time and time again. Then get this, here's where it gets really good. After Scarlett was called out before by Dylan Farrow, she went on to attack her. She attacked the child molestation victim. You really can't make this shit up. I know I said that before, but these women, goddamn, their hypocrisies, it's rich. And then there's also this picture of Scarlett sharing a warm moment with convicted child rapist Roman Polanski at an award show in Paris, because the guy can't even come to America anymore. He's got warrants out for him. He's hiding out in Europe. But Scarlett doesn't seem too offended by that. I guess Scarlett Johansson's outrage is limited to the more minor players in Hollywood, and when it's convenient for her. Because when it's a major director who can get her high-paying work, Scarlett sure has no problem looking the other way.
Your job as an American citizen is not just to fight for your rights. It's to fight for the right of every individual.
And more marches are planned for today.
I guess they cut off Davis here since she didn't really have much to say. She was putting on a good performance, sure, like most of these actors do. She was speaking lots of words, but not really saying that much when it comes down to it. People need to fight for their rights, she said. What right are we denied currently in America? Because I can't think of any. In the end, this Women's March of 2018 wasn't much different than last year's. It was an anti-Trump event dressed up as a pro-women one. We had some new Hollywood celebrities saying the same kinds of bullshit we've heard before. And while last year may have focused more on the election of Trump, since it had just happened, this year was more focused on the Me Too sexual abuse stuff that's been going around lately. Which, let's not forget, Me Too is just Hollywood's attempt to correct the course, to save face following the Harvey Weinstein controversy, which exposed Tinseltown for the degenerate, sexually deviant society it truly is. Me Too and Time's Up were concocted by PR departments of Hollywood in order to try and rebound from this big kerfuffle. And to their credit, maybe our big hypocrites of today, maybe they're also trying to course correct. Maybe Natalie Portman regrets doing that movie that sexualized her as a child. So now she's trying to compensate by reneging on that experience, which brought her into Hollywood fame. And maybe Scarlett Johansson regrets all those years she worked with a creep like Woody Allen. And she most probably regrets defending him and blaming the victim, Dylan Farrow, who is still openly accusing her father of abusing her at a young age. Perhaps Natalie and Scarlett have their regrets and want to make up for things now by pushing Me Too and Time's Up stuff. And that could possibly be a good, noble thing. People make mistakes, and I'm not beyond giving them forgiveness, but there is a big but here. No, not that big but. No, the big but here is these two actresses need to first come clean and fess up on their crap. They can't just jump into Me Too all gung-ho and expect us to forgive and forget their hypocrisies without them first addressing them. If real progress is to be made here, the truth and honesty and confessions and apologies are needed first. And I know Natalie and Scarlett are pretty girls and they're used to getting away with murder, I'm sure, but getting away with murder is kind of Viola Davis's thing. After all, she is female and black, and that's the name of her popular show. But Natalie and Scarlett, you girls are gonna have to do a little bit better. What do you guys think? Was this year's Women's March just as pointless as last year's? Do you see these hypocrisies I pointed out? Possibly with Natalie Portman, but certainly with Scarlett Johansson, if you ask me. And what about James Franco? I personally think he didn't do nothing, but who knows? Comment your own thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.